the Elegoo Mars 3 Pro. Let's give it a review. Hey guys, a little while ago now, I made the unpopular decision to point out what I saw as a flaw in the Mars 3 Ultra 4K. When I reviewed it, I saw the Z-arm wobble, and for a while there, it seemed I was alone in this. But sure enough, many of you spotted the same issue. However, giving credit where it's due, Elegoo were quick in addressing this matter. And that's one thing I consistently hear from my viewers about Elegoo. Their after sales and support are very good. Now, given that I highlighted the aforementioned issue, I was very surprised and even more pleased when Elegoo asked if I'd review their Mars 3 Pro. And it has to be said, this is a pretty brave thing to do. It clearly proves Elegoo aren't afraid to face their critics and are more than prepared to prove the quality of their goods. So, let's have a go at some more honest, straight-talking critique. Despite my wobble worries, I still concluded in my previous review that I liked the Mars 3 Ultra and I loved how it printed. So I'm guessing for the Pro version it will be the same. After all, it's the same base with a new Pro sticker, the same aerodynamically designed lid, the same build plate with the same sandblasted finish, the same build height and the same resin tray. The Elegoo website tells us that the 3 Ultra is fitted with the Elegoo FEP 2.0, but the 3 Pro is fitted with the PFA release liner. Though whether this is just the same product with a different name, who can tell? The Z-arm is different to the Mars I reviewed, and I'm happy to tell you, after testing, there's no wobble here. However, this Z-arm is, I believe, currently on the existing Mars 3 Ultra. So it was probably introduced quite early on in production and cannot count as an upgrade for the Mars 3 Pro. Which means there aren't any upgrades on the Pro version, right? Well, no, that's being unfair. There are updates, but as with every Pro version the Mars has engendered, these changes are subtle. If you want obvious changes, look to the UI. The Ultra had a monotone user menu, which, whilst efficient, seemed cluttered. The 3 Pro has a similar UI to that we recently saw on the new Saturn II. A coloured screen, looking much less cluttered and altogether more friendly. It's a nice touch. The last incarnation of this model, the Mars 2 Pro, had built-in air carbon filtering, if I recall correctly, which is great for cutting down on nasty nifs, but impractical when it comes to changing the carbon. This probably explains why the same feature wasn't included in the 3 Ultra. Fortunately for Pong-free enthusiasts, the USB-powered filter found on the Jupiter and Saturn II is also included on the 3 Pro. Just remember, there's very little power here, so don't try charging your phone unless you like the smell of burnt out electronics. The screen remains a 4K with an XY resolution of 35 microns, which in fairness is still probably good enough for most people's needs, and produces some excellent prints as we'll see in a moment. But since the advent of the Mars 3 Ultra, we've heard promises of a Mars DLP under development, and Frozen threw down the gauntlet with its Mini 8K, which no one has yet picked up. The Saturn II comes close with 28 microns, but it would have been nice if the Mars 3 Pro could have at least tried, even just a bit. Fingers crossed the Mars 4 does. However, there has been useful changes to the screen. Sensible folk live in fear of scratching this delicate glass top, knowing a costly replacement will be required. Well, once again on the Saturn II, we saw the introduction of an anti-scratch screen, and this too has been included on the 3 Pro. It should be more difficult to mark, though I'm not going to be stupid enough to try it. But if it does scratch, crack, or even get covered in baked-on resin, the glass can be replaced cheaply and separately from the expensive UV-emitting content below it. Another party told me that there was a new light source on the 3 Pro, but from what I can see, it's the same COB lens that's on the Ultra. It's still got 36 UV LEDs, but it now projects through a Fresnel lens. This helps control the uniformity of the UV beam, meaning no matter where you place your print on the plate, it should theoretically print equally well. And this change improves light uniformity to 92%, which is an increase over the Ultra's 90%. And I guess every percent counts. Elegoo also tells us the Pro has copper heat tubes and a powerful cooling fan with faster heat transfer and better cooling efficiency, extending the lifespan of 3D printer. But I'm sorry Elegoo, you're still saying that about the 3 Ultra, so we can't pretend it's an upgrade. So with that blistering honesty out of the way, let's run a few test prints. Unfortunately, I haven't any Elegoo resin that I can test on the 3 Pro, though I am looking forward to trying their new 8K resin when I can. So for now, I'll use, sorry Elegoo, ANYCUBIC Water Wash Plus, which has quite impressed me so far. I doubt if these are perfect settings, as, for me, the following prints look a little overexposed, but at least it's a good starting point. The Amanalabs Town test print came out great, and a true credit to 4K printing. Just remember, this print is tiny in the hand, and it's viewed here through a high-powered macro lens. For my jewellery designing buddies, the open source ring came out great too. And again, it's a macro lens folks, so that's why we can see layer lines so well. Plus, I never use anti-aliasing on my reviews. I don't want to show the prints tinkered with in any way. That way you get to see the worst possible result, if that makes sense. Certainly, there's plenty of grounds here to soften these lines with anti-aliasing. Of course, I turn to our buddies at ARCHVILLAIN Games for something detailed to print. Now I often get asked why I print miniatures on my reviews, and the answer is simple. Firstly, I like miniatures, and secondly, because it demonstrates perfectly how a printer copes with something small and detailed, allowing you to judge how well it could print whatever you're into. So what do I think of the Mars 3 Pro? Firstly, there's no wobble. Woohoo! But let me stress, there's been no wobble with the Mars 3 since shortly after my original review, when Elegoo quickly sorted and even improved matters. There does seem precious few changes between the Ultra and the Pro, but that's nothing new really if you examine the history of the Mars printers. However, I think it's fair to say that upgrades have been included. An anti-scratch, easily replaceable screen is a significant improvement, as anyone who's had to replace an expensive screen can testify. And nasty pongs are still probably one of the major off-putting aspects of resin printing, and my wife swears these filters work great. Personally, I never really noticed the smell, but she's my wife and I'm used to her now. More importantly, she hasn't been able to moan at me about printing fumes, which means she's had time to find new topics to grumble at me about. The Fresnel lens and its 2% increase, well, it's there. Whether anyone ever says, "Wow, I'm so glad I've got an extra 2% uniformity," is incredibly unlikely. But at least it's there. Other than that, it's pretty much just a Mars 3. But hang on a moment, that means it's still a Mars 3. This has been a very popular model for Elegoo, and for good reason. It prints great, it's pretty well priced, and Elegoo has developed a strong customer base that rave about the support they receive. I actually loved how the old 3 printed, and nothing has changed for me there. It's still a great 4K printer that doesn't disappoint. So will the Mars 3 Pro sell? Of course it will, just like all the other Pros have sold. People love the Mars and they'll love the 3 Pro as well, and frankly, I think I'm one of those people. Yes, there's a price difference of about $50 right now, but many people would happily pay $50 just for odor reduction and the reassurance the anti-scratch screen provides. And if you're not convinced the Pro is for you, its advent has meant a nicely competitive price on the Mars 3 Ultra 4K. So it's bargain time for Elegoo enthusiasts. And there you have it, the wobble-free, worry-free Mars 3 Pro, critiqued as fairly and as honestly as I'm able. So that's it for this review, guys. Take care and thanks for watching.